Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Mike at the Museum. Have you ever had that desire to move a full-size steam locomotive from, let's say, downtown on the tracks, through the city, out to the park on the edge of the city? Well, that very thing was done right here in Centralia. Come on, let me tell you about the story. The information for today's story comes from two places. First off, here in the museum, in our archives, but most of it comes from an article from the Centralia Sentinel dated November 17th, 2008, that was written by Matthew Barba. Thanks for the article, Matt.
Jim Adams, who is the main reason for the train being in the park, had the best answer. In the article, when he was asked the question, why do we need an engine in the park, he responded by saying, because it was here. The story as to why Centralia has an old-time steam engine currently residing out in Fairview Park, however, begins with two boys. You see, in the 1950s and 1960s, the railroad industry began switching from steam engines over to diesel locomotives. Jim Adams knew some of the local boys who were real sad, really downcast, as he put it, about the switching as they were big fans of steam engines. Adams said they cried in their cokes. Two of the boys at the time, George Redmond and Dave Adams, were the inspiration for Adams to see what it would take for Illinois Central to get one of the historic railroad engines for the area. Now, Adams, who worked for Illinois Central in the car shop at the time, said he wrote a letter to then Illinois Central President Wayne Johnston, asking Johnston if it would be possible for a group to buy one of the steam engines at scrap price. It was estimated that the cost of buying the engine and moving it across town would be about $12,000. A tremendous amount of local support, Adams said, was going to help with bringing down the cost of moving a steam engine and its tinderbox across the city. And one little side note here, that's not $12,000 in today's money. That's $12,000 back then. Things got rolling with a $500 donation from a local veterans group. Soon, more donations came rolling in, and Johnston, the then Illinois Central president, made a personal visit to Centralia. During his visit, he met with members of the group wanting to preserve the engine, Leo Jonas and Ernie Doolin, and then told the group that the railroad would be willing to donate an engine for display on two conditions. The conditions that Johnson gave were: the group formed to preserve the engine would pay all of the costs to move it, and a trust fund would be established for the perpetual care of the locomotive. Agreeing to these terms, the committee selected the 2500. The next phase was to actually start moving the 2500 from the track downtown to the park. The moving got started when on September 1st, 1962, the 255-ton engine was delivered to the preservation group. Step 1 was to get the train off the tracks and pointed west. With just over a mile to travel from the downtown area out to the spot on Fairview Park, a big group of volunteers and machines came out to get the job done. The basic setup was to use two winch trucks. One winch ran forward and the other ran backwards. What they would do would be to pull the train onto the set of tracks, then take the other set of tracks and move it around in front of the train. Pull the train forward and keep repeating this process until they reach the park. In the article, Adams added, "We had a lot of cooperation from the railroads and local businesses. At the time, there were a lot of oil businesses still in the area, so many of them brought out their own winch trucks to help. There were so many people that helped us." They pulled the locomotive along the tracks by a bulldozer, and it reached Pullen Boulevard on September 5, 1962. From Pullen, the train had to be moved along Old Illinois Route 161, but it was noted in the article that the group only had a permit to move the train on state roadway during daylight hours, so when the sun went down, so did the train moving. On Saturday, September 8, 1962, the engine started its move from Pullen around 5 a.m. to its final place in Fairview Park, being pulled on its foundation out in the park just before 5 p.m. Adams described the move as amazing, saying it was undoubtedly one of the greatest examples of community cooperation our city has ever seen. Everyone helped. Now, one last note that there was a cost to moving the 2500 out to the park. The article mentioned several ways that this move was helped. Donations were an important part of the story of the 2500. The track to move the locomotive from Fairview Park was donated by Illinois Central, and the railroad sold the preservation group the track that the train now sits on at a reduced rate. Workers for Illinois Central were responsible for helping the volunteers keep the tracks the train was being moved on in the correct place. Dozens of unnamed individuals, Adams said, gave their time and sweat to move the locomotive. The concrete bed that the train sits on was also donated, and countless individuals had given their time in its upkeep. In 1992, a donation was made to the group to build a shelter to help the locomotive stay out of the weather. Canadian National donated the manpower and materials to paint the locomotive with a durable finish that would last several years while it sat in the park. Adams commented on the paint job. Finally, when the whole thing was done, it was the prettiest black you've ever saw. At the end of the article, Adams added this: "Those two young boys that inspired me to write the letter, they're still helping to take care of the train. We have a lot of good people working hard out there every year."
I know people today drive past the 2500 sitting out here at the park and may never give it a second thought. But once you understand how the people of Centralia came together to preserve this part of the city's past, I guess all I can hope is that there will be a greater appreciation between the connection of the railroad to Centralia. Thanks for watching another episode of Mike at the Museum. If you want to come see the artifacts that I showcase in these little episodes, you are more than welcome. All you got to do is come down to the Centralia Area Historical Museum. We are located at 240 South Locust here in Centralia, and we're open Wednesday 1 to 4 p.m., Fridays 1 to 4 p.m., and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Oh, by the way, it's free. 3 floors of all kind of artifacts you can come and watch. Hope to see you there, and thanks for watching.